The poet Rilke said, "Be patient toward all that is unsolved in your heart, and try to love the questions themselves." Welcome to the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara. Welcome into this loving community of seekers where we strive to live with integrity, nurture wonder, and inspire the actions that transform us and transform the world. Welcome on this very full Sunday, this unusual Sunday of questions and answers, this improvisational Sunday. And I am especially delighted to have a guest musician here, Benny Lackner, with a little bit of improvisation musically as well as in words. It's wonderful to be here together. I'm the Reverend Julia Hamilton. I use she, her pronouns, and I am delighted to be here with all of you who have chosen to take this time to nurture those holy and sacred questions that you hold in your hearts and minds. Whether you're here physically in our in-person sanctuary or joining us online in our virtual sanctuary, we are one community on this one earth, and it is good to be together. If you're joining with us for the first time or the second time and you want to know more about what's going on here at the Unitarian Society, please stop by our welcome table in the courtyard or click the visitor link if you're joining us online so that we can keep in touch with you about all the things that are going on here at this congregation Sundays and beyond. And if you feel like you've been coming for a little while and this might be your home, your community of hope and resistance, then we invite you into membership at any time. You can talk to Angie, our membership and outreach coordinator, at the membership table in the garden. I want to say thank you to everyone who helped keep the past few Sundays rich and wonderful while I was away on vacation. It is good to be back, and it's a reminder that it takes all of us to make this amazing and remarkable community happen each and every week. So thank you to everyone who leaned in. We have a lot going on this Sunday, and whenever I'm away for a while, I'm always struck by how much keeps going on. And I want to highlight a few things that are coming up this fall. Right now, we are signing up for our fall connection circles. These are small groups that meet twice a month, sometimes here, sometimes in people's homes. It's an opportunity to dive deeper into our lives together, to get to know each other. You can talk to Carol Schwitzer. Carol, where are you? Carol Schwitzer can answer any questions you might have about our connection circles, and we do have an online connection circle option as well for those of you who are joining us from afar but would like to participate. Speaking of keeping things going, it takes all of us, including those who are willing to be ushers on Sunday morning. And so we have an usher training coming up at the end of this month on the 31st. Angie can answer any questions you have about that. But this is a critical role of greeting folks, helping keep us safe, helping keep folks oriented who are new and visiting. And if you have any questions about what it means to be an usher and part of the Sunday morning team, talk to Angie or me, and we can help get you connected. Next Saturday is the Pacific Pride Festival here in Santa Barbara, and as always, I'm looking forward to seeing a lot of you there. We do have a table, as we do each and every year, so stop by the Unitarian Society table at the Pride Festival, and you can talk to Angie if you have any questions about that, but we look forward to celebrating our local Pride Festival with you here next weekend. And finally, I want to invite Charla Forward, our Director of Lifespan Religious Exploration, because we're kicking off a whole host of things for all ages this season.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Charla Bergante. I'm the Director of Religious Exploration. My pronouns are she, her, and we have a lot coming up in religious exploration. Beginning this month, August is RE registration month. So if you've got kids from childcare all the way through youth group, please find the registration links in your Friday email or August Kaleidoscope and register them. And for all of you who register by the end of August, your names will be entered into a raffle for a $50 Chaucer's gift card, and I'll be drawing that name on September 7th. So get those kids and youth registered. Speaking of youth, youth group begins next Sunday. We're bringing our teens back to campus on Sunday mornings. So they'll be meeting at 10 a.m. in Blake Lounge with Christina Boardman. And at 11:45 next Sunday, there'll be a parent meeting for parents of youth who are registering and joining youth group. Uh, for our kids, well, and actually for all of you, so pay attention because we are doing another camp out this year, and like last year, we're partnering with the UU congregation in San Luis Obispo, and we got a really big campsite. So we might be opening it up to other members of the congregation. We're going to see how many CRE folks join up first. And that camp out is September 26th through 28th. Families, please also go online and register for that so we know you're coming. And then for adults, I'm really happy to say we have another Lunch and Learn series all filled out for the fall, and the first one is August 31st. I'll be leading it. It's called What's Your Sign? And we're going to be making protest signs and talking about what you want your sign to say and what you want your sign to say about you. So sign up for that online or in the garden at the RE table. And finally, back to Children's RE for a second, I am meeting with 4 or 5 really great people who are interested in volunteering in Children's RE to teach this today, right after the service at 11:30 in Jefferson Hall. And if you might be thinking you might want to learn a little more about that, please feel free to join us over there. Thank you.
Sunday is a little bit of a special Sunday. You all have index cards in your order of service. And if you don't have one, or if you don't have something to write with, if you want to go ahead and raise your hand, and we'll make sure the ushers get you an index card or a pencil. And a little later on in the service, there'll be some time for reflection where you can write down your questions for me. And instead of a sermon this morning, we're going to be doing a bit of an improvisational question and response. We're going to read this and creatively and collaboratively create the service this morning together. If you want to put your name on the question, go ahead. That'll allow me to follow up. And who knows, maybe it will turn into a service of its own one of these Sundays coming up this year. Question Box Sunday is not just about my answers to your questions, but about being a faith that considers questioning a core part of our spiritual practice. We come here in part each week because we want to learn how to ask good questions, the questions that matter for ourselves and for a world in need of more compassionate care. We are carrying a lot with us into the space this morning, so I invite you now to take a breath, center yourself, allow yourself to arrive here fully in body and spirit as we connect ourselves through the sound of our bell.
The most important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. One cannot help but be in awe when they contemplate the mysteries of eternity of life, of the marvelous structure of reality. Is it enough if one tries merely to comprehend a little of this mystery every day? Albert Einstein. I'm Gary Welterlin, he, him, and I have good news. And it's going to come from a strange place for those that have been Santa Barbara over the last couple of years. The good news is the Santa Barbara News Press. I know. Our good news this week is Newswell, a nonprofit organization that is part of the Arizona State University Media Enterprise Group. In 2025, a local philanthropic group led by Ben Romo and Jason Yardy purchased the online domain and digital archives of the defunct news site. They donated them to Newswell, a news nonprofit that's part of, as I had said, Arizona State University. Newswell offers comprehensive wraparound services, business planning, and professional training to our local newsrooms, helping them build sustainable business models that focus and service on the communities. Santa Barbara, for decades, have depended on the news press to inform and empower residents. This legacy ended 2 years ago when the News Press organization declared bankruptcy and ended more than 150 years of storytelling history. Its waning years marked by controversy and conflict around editorial policies. The news press is slowly reemerging as a nonprofit news source serving the Central Coast community. It's intended to be a fresh start. Other media outlets, including the Independent, Newshawk, EdHack, and KEYT and KCLU, have worked hard to fill this void. But the news press's downfall and ultimate departure decimated the number of journalists covering the Central Coast. Reports indicated in the early 2000s there were more than 60 people full-time working in the newsroom. Today, there are less than 30. Nicole Carroll, executive director of Newswell and the former editor of USA Today, says it's all about expanding local services and information. It's wonderful that Santa Barbara has trusted local news sources for so long. We want to add to that, she said. As Newswell sets up to reimagine the Santa Barbara News Press and the future of local news, they embarked on a series of listening sessions seeking input from residents and local leaders from the South Coast. I'm looking to learn and expand my awareness and sow things that generate that kind of light. These are the things I'll prioritize, says Ken Saxon, founder of Leading From Within, a nonprofit that fosters a network of leaders, and a former member here. The feedback we received is abundantly clear. Community members want more and in-depth, explanatory, and investigative news, and they're excited about the additional coverage. Newswell intends to conduct additional listening sessions to better understand the news needs of Spanish speakers and those, as there is a dearth of coverage focused on Spanish and Indigenous-speaking communities. Serving the community can take many forms. In addition to news publishing, the News Press also plans to host community events, foster lifelong learning, and spearhead innovative ideas for community journalism. A healthy news press is a good thing. We wish them well. Matt?
The free press is a good thing. So we're going to sing a song that many of you might have known of over the years, and I learned something new about this song. So if our singers want to come up, we're going to sing number 1003, Where Do We Come From, in the Teal hymnal. But if you look on the screen, what I learned was that the words for this song come from the title of a painting by Paul Gauguin. And the painting is called Where Do We Come From? Who Are We? Where Are We Going? And here is, I think, the painting on the screen. And so now you can have a little bit of by asking questions about the songs that we sing, even if we've been singing them for years, we can learn new things about their origins. So let us rise in body and spirit. And this is a round, so follow our singers closely.
Are there any children or children at heart who would like to come forward for a story this morning? Join Julia up here. I know. Like we noticed last week, our children just keep getting taller and older, that's all. So this story that we are going to read today is called The Three Questions. I adapted it from a book by John J. Muth, who adapted it from a story by Leo Tolstoy. There once was a boy named Nikolai, who sometimes felt uncertain about the right way to act. I want to be a good person, he tells his friends, but I don't know the best way to do that. If only I could find the answers to my three questions, he said, then I would always know what to do. My three questions are, when is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? His friends were eager to help and began by answering his first question, when is the best time to do things? To know the best time to do things, one must plan in advance, said his friend Sonia, the heron. His friend Gogol, the monkey, said, you will know when to do the things if you watch and pay close attention. Pushkin, a dog, said, you need a pack to keep watch and help you decide when to do things. Nikolai thought about their answers for a minute. Then he asked his friends his other two questions. And after they did their best to answer them, Nikolai thought for a long time. He loved his friends, but their answers to his questions didn't seem quite right. So he decided to journey high into the mountains where Leo, a wise and very old turtle, lived alone. Nikolai thought to himself, he has lived a very long time. Surely he must have the answers I'm seeking. When he finally arrived, he found Leo digging a garden. I have three questions, said Nikolai, and I came to ask your help. When is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? Leo listened carefully, but he only smiled and went on digging in his garden. Nikolai waited and watched the old turtle slowly digging. Finally, he said, you must be tired. Let me help you. Leo handed him the shovel and thanked him. Nikolai kept on digging until he had finished all the rows in the garden. But just then, a wild storm burst forth from the skies, pelting them with rain, the wind threatening to topple them. As they moved toward Leo's cottage for shelter, Nikolai heard a cry for help. Running down the path, he found a panda lying on the ground, injured by a fallen tree. Nikolai carefully carried the panda back into Leo's home. He made a bamboo splint for her injured leg before tucking her into bed. The storm raged on, and suddenly the panda awoke and asked, where am I, and where is my child? Nikolai ran back out of the cottage into the rain and wind, down the path and back through the forest, searching for the panda cub. He found her cold and shivering on the ground, and cradling her in his arms, he sprinted back to warm and dry her before gently placing her in her mother's arms. Leo smiled when he saw what the boy had done. The next morning, the sun was shining. The panda thanked Nikolai for saving her and her baby before saying goodbye. And soon, Nikolai's friends, Sonia, Gogol, and Pushkin, arrived to make sure he was all right. Nikolai was happy to see his friends and felt a great peace within himself for helping the panda and her child. But he still had not found the answers to his three questions. And so he asked Leo one more time, when is the best time to do things? Who is the most important one? And what is the right thing to do? But your questions have been answered, Leo says to him. Nikolai looked confused, and Leo explained by recalling the events of the past day, how Nikolai helped him dig his garden, made a splint for the panda's leg, and rescued her baby. Leo noted that throughout the day, Nikolai did what needed to be done, the most important thing, at the moment it needed to be done, the right time, for the person who needed it most, the most important one. He turned to Nikolai and said, "Remember then, there is only one important time, and that time is now. The most important one is always the one you are with. And the most important thing is to do good for the one who is standing at your side. For these, my dear boy, are the answers to what is most important in the world. This is why we are here." And that's our time for all ages this morning. Kids, we're going to go out and paint some rocks.
Our kids to their activities this morning. They need. May it be so. Will those in our community who are in harm's way, who are victims of violence, cruelty, or persecution, will they find safety? May it be so. Will our nation find the courage to resist injustice and turn towards compassion? May it be so. Will peace arrive into the places where war is tearing us apart? May it be so. Will those in power be held accountable for their actions, and will leaders emerge who will inspire us toward a more sustainable future? May it be so. And will we find our way to joy and beauty in the midst of it all? May it be so. Amen, and blessed be. During these next few moments, while music washes over us, I invite you to consider your own questions and write them on the card you have been given, and they will be collected by the ushers after the music plays.
Thank you, Ben. You have a very different perspective when you're in front of the piano and you're watching all how the keys are hit, and you see how everything kind of goes. So it was one I hadn't quite seen before, so thanks again. I have a confession to make. I cry watching movies. Yes, even cartoons, Ratatouille chiefly among them. I'm a sucker for characters that engage me at an emotional level and push my emotional buttons about love, fear, sadness, redemption, and a whole lot more. Stand By Me is one of those movies. How many of you seen it? Okay, well, John, we're going to run a little clip and see if you can remember this scene from it.
Ricky's around
As a refresher, Stand By Me is a 1986 American coming-of-age drama directed by Rob Reiner and based on Stephen King's 1982 novella, The Body. Set in the fictional town of Castle Rock, Maine in 1959, the film follows four boys, Gordy LaChance, Chris Chambers, Teddy Beauchamp, and Vern Tessio, on a journey to find the body of a missing boy. Told through the perspective of the adult Gordy, played by Richard Dreyfuss, reflects on childhood friendships, grief, and the emotional complexities of growing up in complex times. It's less about the answers and more about the questions, the journey and not the destination. Watching the movie, I fashioned myself after Gordy, who I felt was worldly and didn't give much thought about Vern, what the hell is Goofy, the credit he deserved. As you can see, I am no longer a 12-year-old. Yet the story line is timeless. Friendship, grief, and the emotional complexities of growing up or older in complex times. Trying to get answers to age-old questions never changes. What remains central to the theme is curiosity. But for me, the one that shifts the what, the when, where, and why moves to what if and why not. You remember this cartoon? This is a famous single-frame cartoon by Sidney Harris. After many years, it captures what's wrong and what's deeply unscientific. In the cartoon, two professors stand next to each other in front of a chalkboard filled with complex mathematics, and the more senior professor points to one part of the elaborate line of reasoning and says, "I think you have to be more specific here at step 2. Step 2, sparse and simple in the middle of the complicated lines is, this is where the miracle occurs. Then the miracle happens. To me, what, when, why, and where look backward. They are questions with answers that need research to fill in facts about events past and present. What happened? Where did it occur? Where is it? How can I know what had happened until it was? When needs a date stamp? Where needs a location, a coordinate, an address? These are things that can have answers. Now, don't get me wrong, these are important things to know. But other than from worry, these things shouldn't keep me awake at night. If I'm going to wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, it should be for the what ifs and the why nots. To me, what ifs and why nots are subjective and their own predispositions. What ifs and why nots are reserved for the curious, for they don't have discrete answers. Only more questions, which begets more curiosity, which begets more questions. Here was an experiment that I tried at home in front of a mirror. I said the word why and looked to see what my face did. I found that my brow furrowed, my eyes narrowed, and my lips pierced. I felt serious, almost judgmental. I took a deep breath and then asked the questions, what if, and then why not? My eyes opened wide, my eyebrows lifted, my head cocked to the side, and I broke into a smile. I became curious and open to the alternatives. I did this over and over and over again with similar results. Now, I'm not a scientist, but to me, this seems to suggest a pattern. The philosopher Will Durant wrote, "The most interesting thing in the world is about human beings who wonders, suffers, and raises questions that have bothered him to the last day of his life, knowing he will never get the answers." Since we all seem to be headed in the same destination, maybe it's not about getting the right answers, rather about the what ifs and why nots and being perpetually curious. But here's the rub. What ifs and why nots are good to say, but not easy to do. What ifs and why nots are by definition against conventional wisdom. There are regrets. I spent a lot of time telling myself, no, don't do that, you'll regret it later. They will complicate your life. This internal dialogue goes on, and then many times the moment will pass and I don't do anything. However, in that moment when my eyebrow lifts, my head tilts, and I break into a smile, you cross over from why to what if and why not. Well, that's when curiosity takes over. You leave comfort behind, and that's where the miracle happens. What if I learned another language? Why not? What if I learned to dance? Why not? It's only me. I can't make a difference. Why not? What if there are weeds in heaven? Why not? Or, as I've told myself, I'm not cut out to be a worship associate. Why not? Okay, I agreed with Teddy Beauchamp. Goofy is a dog. But I'm beginning to believe the one to listen to is not Teddy or Gordy, but Vern. Vern is the curious one. What the hell is Goofy? Should I be that person? I want to be like Vern. I want to be curious. Goofy might be a dog. Why not? Thank you.
We'll be getting to these in just a moment. I'd like to share a reading by Rainer Marie Rilke. I live my life in widening circles that reach out across the world. I may not complete this last one, but I will give myself to it. I circle around God, around the primordial tower. I've been circling for thousands of years, and I still don't know. Am I a falcon, a storm, or a great song? So ends our reading.
This is a busy week for the LGBTQ community in Santa Barbara. Pride Festival was over the weekend on the 24th and 25th, or 23rd and 24th, next weekend. 23rd as well. PFLAG is going to be hosting a picnic tomorrow evening in Stevens Park for anybody who would be interested in joining us and learning more about what we do. Our offering this month is to the three organizations that serve our LGBTQ community in Santa Barbara: Pacific Pride, SB Transgender Advocacy Network, or SBTAN, and PFLAG. Please give generously to these worthy organizations during the month of August, and join me in our affirmation of gratitude and giving. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those that share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so we may learn from the generosity of others.
This is an amazing stack of questions, and I could spend time with each and every one of them, and I will. I want to say one of the reasons why I like doing this service at the beginning of our church year, which usually sort of starts in the summer and goes through till next summer, is it gives me ideas about what is alive in the congregation right now. What are the questions that you have on your mind and heart? So as we do service planning for the coming year, don't be surprised if you see some of these coming up in those services. We won't be able to get to all of them today, but Gary's going to help me get through some of them. So I'm going to hand off this stack to Gary, and he is going to do his best to read your handwriting. We're just going to flip through them. And I may ask him to skip ahead if I feel like we've already covered one, so that we can get through as many as we can. So let's get started. Thank you all for your questions.
Am I on? I am on.
There you go.
I've always wanted to do a talk show. This is great. And welcome. And thank you for joining us today. Our first question is, why is this place called a society instead of a church? In the parentheses, I like it, just wondering.
Why is this the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara instead of a church? If you look at Unitarian Universalist congregations, you'll find all kinds of different names. Some are churches, some are societies, some are fellowships, some are congregations. And really, it goes back to when the congregation was founded. I can't read the minds of the folks who founded the congregation and made that choice. But a lot of times, we look for the most inclusive language that we can. And the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara is a Unitarian Universalist congregation. So at some point, when the Unitarians and the Universalists merged, the congregation decided to keep the name the Unitarian Society and just kind of add on the addendum Unitarian Universalist congregation. My guess is it was probably meant to be an inclusive word that would welcome everyone. Functionally, we look a lot like a church. People say, I go to church, I don't go to society. So if people use the word church colloquially, that's fine. Whatever word works for you to describe this community, this sacred community, is fine. The fact that we exist is the important part, and what we call it may vary through the ages and from person to person.
Very good.
This one was submitted by someone who couldn't be here today, so she emailed it in.
This is sent in from afar. How do I balance the two important pieces of advice I keep hearing from the community and from the pulpit? Take care of yourself, take care of your neighbors in the world. They seem to be at odds, especially now. You must face this question daily, hourly. What are the considerations that help you decide how to balance these and when to advantage the one over the other, when it seems it will never be either?
So there were a lot of questions along this road. How do we take care of ourselves while we take care of others? Much like Charlotte's story this morning, the Tolstoy question, how do we take care of the person who is right here in front of us at the same time while making sure we are able to survive and thrive as well? I ask a lot of questions from my sermons, and a lot of times it's wrestling toward that answer together. And if you ask me that question, how do I take care of myself and know when then to give of myself to take care of others, it's a constant flux. It's a constant balance. And the way I think of it is, it's not that I'm always occupying the center point. It's not about finding that still place in the middle between self and other. It's about constantly being willing and able to move back and forth. There's times when we reach down in our bodies and find extraordinary reserves that we didn't even know we had because we are called upon in that moment to come out and help someone else in need. And then we have to then move back after we do that, after we reach down and find that strength we're looking for, then we also need to scooch back along the balance beam and replenish ourselves. And so it's this constant movement that work. And I think being here for me is part of that movement. That's how I stay sensitive. That's how I stay aware. If you spend all of your time out there and not in touch with what's grounding you in here, the balance will get off. And if you spend all of your time in here creating a bubble, a retreat, a beautiful space for yourself without being aware of what's going on out there, history will show eventually what's going on out there will end up being in here no matter how much you try to protect yourself. So for me, that question that came up a lot of how do you take care of yourself and how do you take care of others is through movement and awareness. and figuring out moment to moment and day to day, what am I being called toward? How much do I have within me to respond? And when do I need to take time to replenish and renew? One of the other good things about being in a community like this is that it's not a solo race, it's a group effort. And so we can take turns spelling each other. There are times when the congregation will be doing things that I can't do. I could never do all of the things that this congregation accomplishes on my own. So it's okay if you have to step back and replenish and renew yourself. And know that when you come back into community, there'll be a place for you to give of yourself. And there's times when you are called to give of yourself so that someone you know is struggling can step back and rest. We do this collaboratively, not individually. That's another way that I survive.
And I think that's good advice for all of us. Indeed. What were your career goals before you chose ministry? I heard that you and your husband were pursuing live theater.
So what before ministry, right? There was a life before ministry. And yet, so there were two things I wanted to be. The very first was not in theater or ministry, it was an astronaut. That was my very, very first love. I grew up watching Carl Sagan. I came of age during the teacher in space era. The space, like all of that was so visible and present, and I could think of nothing more exciting than being able to go up into space, into the stars. I went to space camp when I was in 6th grade in Huntsville, Alabama. And then at the time, I realized I probably would have to enlist in the military if I wanted to pursue that, so that kind of put an end to that dream. And then I did get involved in theater. I went to an arts high school in New Orleans. I also was interested in zoology for a time, kind of relocating that scientific curiosity to life here on Earth. So when I went to college, it was zoologist or theater. Still ministry not on the horizon. And I did theater for a long time. I ended up working in TV and film in Los Angeles, worked with a theater company in LA. And then when I moved to New York, I got a job working as the office manager at the Fourth Universalist Society of New York. I'd grown up Unitarian Universalist. And at that point, watching the woman who became my mentor, the Reverend Rosemary Bray McNatt, I started to see this fuller picture of ministry. And that as a minister, I could be an astronaut. I could be a zoologist. I could be in theater. I could take all of those things that I loved about all of these different paths and incorporate them into the work of ministry. And that's one of the reasons why I am deeply grateful to have found this career path, because I get to be all kinds of things.
We walk down the aisle when we come in, at least when I'm with Julia, and I look at her when we're looking at the clock outside. And my first words at 10 o'clock is, "It's showtime." Away we go. Everybody went landscape, okay? Except for this one. So those that went profile, I won't say your name, but you'll know it's you. I believe the history of our society, church crossed out, enriches our time within its walls. Do you know how our congregation came to the aid of the community during the Great Depression, World War I, and the 1925 earthquake? There must be photos as well.
That's a great question. This congregation is coming up on its 150th anniversary, and there is a richness to this congregation's history that is inspiring. We just celebrated, or honored, I should say, not celebrated, honored the 100th anniversary of the 1925 earthquake. So that's online if you want to know more about what this congregation did during that time. And as we are going into the capital campaign, we're going to be unearthing a lot of the history of this congregation, and we're going to be relying on some of you who have been here for decades to help us fill in the gaps. There's plans to do a timeline. We're working with our volunteer archivist, Judy Ferris, to go down in the archives and pull some of these gems about congregational history forward. So keep an eye out for more information about that question as we enter this year, where we look at the future of this congregation as well as its past. I do know that this congregation has always been very socially and politically engaged. I know that it is part of the DNA of this community to respond to the moments, the great things that are happening in the world, rather than closing the doors. So I look forward to seeing what we find in our archives.
Those are the whats, the whys, the wheres, and we're going to talk about the what ifs and what could be.
Yeah.
Do you congregations or the national organization ever profess a belief in any God?
Do you congregations ever profess a belief in any God? So we are what we call a non-creedal faith. That means there is no statement of belief that unifies Unitarian Universalists, either congregationally or nationally. We have values, we have principles, but we don't have like the Nicene Creed, right, which lists the statement of belief. There is no Unitarian Universalist position on God, existence or non-existence, definition of God, any kind of God. That is really left up to the individual on their own personal spiritual journey to discern what their relationship and definition of the divine might be. And I can guarantee you this is a great conversation to have with each other during coffee hour, to ask each other with that curiosity, that open-hearted curiosity, what do you believe about the divine? And listen with curiosity so that we can learn and grow together, realizing that we're all going to have our own experiences, our own backgrounds, and our own beliefs. But there's no mandated belief in God or any particular kind of God within Unitarian Universalism. That said, there are some congregations that do lean more into the Christian tradition than others. We are a diverse community of congregations. So if you go visit, for example, King's Chapel in Boston, one of the oldest Unitarian Universalist congregations in the country, they came out of the Anglican tradition, and they use a lot more formal language from the prayer book that goes back hundreds of years. So you'll find a very different expression of Unitarian Universalism in that congregation than you might in this one. But there is no closed book on the subject. It's open for discussion.
Is there inherent good and evil, or is it always subjective? What is the UU position on this?
Is there inherent good or evil? There's quite a few questions in there about this tension between goodness and evil, or what is the definition of sin. And again, within Unitarian Universalism, the language that we use isn't so much around good and evil, but we talk about inherent worth. We talk about inherent dignity. We talk about the things that make us human, that we aspire to. We talk about love being at the center. So these values and principles are things that are found within us, but they're not the only things found within us. They're the things we lift up. They're the things we want to cultivate, the things we want to lean into and grow towards. That doesn't mean that we don't also have capacity for what we might call sin or evil or doing harm in the world, right? And so this leaning toward the good, this leaning toward worth and dignity is a constant practice, because it's not as if that's the only part of humanity. And I think part of what we do on Sunday morning is lift up those ways that we can nurture and cultivate the things that we aspire to, while being realistic and naming the harmful places, the ways we hurt each other, the ways we let each other down, and finding ways to ask for forgiveness when we do that. Finding ways to heal so that we don't replicate those hurts, whether they're personal or societal. So I won't say that there is no evil in the world. I think, look around. It's hard to deny that we don't have that capacity. So I don't think it's subjective. I don't think it's sort of an opinion. I think bad things exist, and we have to be realistic about that. But we also can't be, we are not a tradition that says bad things are the root of who we are, right? So some traditions lean into the concept of sin as being the core heart of humanity, a brokenness. That's not Unitarian Universalism. Unitarian Universalism puts love at the center of who we are, leans us in toward that, and asks us to reckon with and wrestle with the places where we might fall short of that love.
Time check?
We can ask a
couple more?
Yeah.
Where do you see USSB being in 3 years? This is
So we
Karnak.
we talked about the past, and there were quite a few questions about the future. In 3 years, so if I was going to paint a picture in 3 years, the capital campaign would be done. The construction would be done. We would have this beautiful gathering space on Lower Campus with a beautiful new name where we could welcome the community in to find sanctuary and safety, to be renewed in their spirit, to organize for change. 3 years, we will be organizing under a different worldview, perhaps. I hold out hope. I hold out hope that in 3 years, we'll be able to celebrate a move towards love and compassion that we will have been instrumental in bringing about. That we will be a place where community members come and feel safe and seen and welcomed. That's where I think we're going to be in 3 years. We got some work to do to get there.
This would have been a great time to go to a commercial break on behalf of the
Capital Campaign team.
The Capital Campaign, exactly. All right. Do you think humanity is generally evolving in a positive direction?
So sort of a corollary to the good and evil, are we evolving in a positive direction? I think evolution is morally neutral. I think evolution happens. Evolution is creativity. Evolution is the way life works in the world, is inescapable, right? Sometimes people ask me what I believe God is, my own personal version of that question, right? What do I think about God? Different on different days, but a lot of times I think of it as creativity. And evolution is an expression of that creativity, but I do think it's morally neutral. And the way we, however, have the ability to discern and nurture community and society to move and grow in a different way. Would I call that evolution? Probably not. I'd call that maybe growth. I'd call that change. But I think the biological function of evolution is morally neutral. It's up to us to bend the arc of justice on top of that biological foundation we've been given.
This is a tough one. What do you read for fun?
I do read for fun. I read a lot of science fiction and fantasy. Sometimes when this world is too much, I want to live on another world for a while. And so I do a lot of work on books that are serious and grounding, and sometimes I just want a good escapist science fiction and fantasy book.
Two more?
Two more, and then
Two
we'll...
more. Which poet do you turn to when you are struggling? I mean, most often in this phase of your life and at this time.
There's a lot of poets. We do a lot of poetry on Sunday mornings, and if you have favorite poets, please direct them to me. Rilke, as I read this morning, is somebody that I return to over and over again. A poet that I feel like is trying to figure out what it means to be alive and love in the world and struggles with that question. So I like reading Rilke. I like reading, there's a poet named Anna Akhmatova, who I really like. It's kind of a collection of different things call for different days. There's classics, right? Like Mary Oliver is like the poet laureate of Unitarian Universalism. So if I want a good dose of nature and that joy that comes from the natural world, you turn to poets like that. Ross Gay, if you haven't read Ross Gay, highly, highly recommend him for giving you a dose of joy in the world right now. It's poets I feel like are like prescriptions for the soul, and different days call for different prescriptions.
Do you believe in miracles? What is a miracle?
Do I believe in miracles? I believe that as long as we are alive, there is always the opportunity for something unexpected to happen. If we are alive, we cannot know what will happen next. If you want to call that a miracle, call it a miracle. I think we'll end there.
There you go. All right. Thank you.
Thank you for your questions. We will do this again, and I look forward to sitting with these. I'm going to be bringing these to our worship arts team, and you'll be hearing more about them in the coming weeks and months. I invite us now to join in singing one more time together. We're going to sing Wo Ya Ya. It's number 1020 in the Teal hymnal. The words are on the screen or in the hymnal. please stay right where you are, and if you want to put your hands over your heart or hold hands with the person next to you or hold them open wherever you are, however it is that you get connected to that larger life that moves through us all. And as you go out into this beautiful and heartbreaking world, may the light of love shine upon you, out from within you, be gracious unto you, and bring you peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And let us call out a blessing. Well, because we have our special guest here with us today, I'm going to invite Benny Lackner to come and play a couple of songs as a special treat for our prelude. Please feel free to stick around. And I just want to say again, Benny's been a friend of mine for a long, long time, and I am so delighted to be able to share this space with you this morning.
So much.